Block, formerly known as Square, is up roughly 4% after the company reported earnings on Thursday. And while earnings weren't perfect, I do want to say there are a few reasons to remain bullish in this fintech giant. Let's take a closer look in today's episode. Alright, so first I just want to take a closer look at price action. We can see Block right now sitting at $77.36 as I am recording. Like I mentioned, after the company reported earnings, stock price jumped over 4%. And I do want to say that's during a very bearish or downish market on Friday. We can see companies like Etsy, like eBay, like Shopify down a nice amount on that day. So we can see that investors are definitely excited about their earnings. I also wanted to take a closer look at year to date. We can see right now Block is up roughly 19.6%, and unfortunately from its 52-week high, the stock is still down over 47%. So definitely, even though year to date things are turning around, even though earnings are what investors are at least were looking for in form of price actions, there's still a lot that needs to be done. So I want to start off with what are some of my favorite things about their earnings, and I do believe there are three things I really did enjoy. So the first thing is just the company's overall gross profit. We can see gross profit for Block as a whole grew 40% year over year, sitting at $1.66 billion. And this was driven by growth in both their Square gross profit, which is now at $801 million, up 22% year over year. Also, everything is up on a quarter over quarter basis. We see Cash App gross profit up 64% year over year, sitting at $848 million. I believe this is going to be the first time that Cash App is higher than Square when it comes to gross profit. And we are going to see a lot of that growth is coming from the Cash App. And I do believe, I want to say I'm bullish in both ecosystems. I think Square Block has a great ecosystem right now with their sellers and their buyers, but I do believe in forms of potential at the moment, Cash App definitely has that growth opportunity, at least for the foreseeable future. Before we go any further, we have to remember that, hey, Block Square acquired a buy now, pay later Afterpay platform on January 31st of 2022. So these numbers might look a little bit different if we don't include them. Luckily for us, Square Block did kind of break down those numbers if you do exclude the buy now, pay later platform. So we can see Block, if you would kind of exclude that, was up 24% on their gross profit year over year, opposed to that 40%. If we take a closer look at individual, Square was up 7% versus that 22% if you exclude buy now, pay later platform, and Cash App was up 45% year over year instead of 64% if you kind of exclude, again, that buy now, pay later platform. The company does mention that they acquired their buy now, pay later platform through the acquisition of Afterpay. They recognize revenue from their buy now, pay later platform as subscription and services-based revenue and have allocated 50% of revenue and gross profit from our buy now, pay later platform to each of Square and Cash App. So it's good to know. It seems like right now, Block, even after a few quarters, still doesn't know how to properly split up their gross profit from this buy now, pay later. So at the moment, they're doing a 50% on both Square and Cash App. Outside of just the growth here that we're seeing in gross profit, even if we exclude buy now, pay later service, I did also enjoy something that the CEO mentioned during the earnings call. Right now, we are seeing Block report adjusted EBITDA metrics. They do mention that Block wants to kind of improve their profitability, and the first thing they want to do is eventually start adjusted operating income, and that's going to add a lot of expenses. And to me, right, when I see management changing that, when they're willing to start sharing more metrics, or at least in the highlight forms, right, where you start to add more expenses back into it, and they're willing to share that more openly in kind of their images and in their financial metrics, to me, it tells me one thing, that management is confident that those metrics are improving and that investors are going to enjoy it in the long term of things. So obviously right now we are in a pretty crazy market where a lot of these companies that were growth stocks weren't really focused too much on expenses. Now we're really kind of focusing. We heard it from Meta, right? The year of efficiency. And even though Meta says that it's the year of efficiency for them, I think every type of company and stock right now, that's what they're doing. This is the year of efficiency, where the past few years they were probably spending too much money. Now they see that that was a mistake, so they have to focus on improving profitability. If we take a closer look at the full 2023 outlook, they do mention that adjusted EBITDA metrics are going to be 130 million. But remember, I do mention that management wants to take a closer look at adjusted operating income or losses instead. And they do believe that's going to be a loss of $150 million this year of 2023. So there is much room for improvement, but like I mentioned earlier on, I do believe this is the great move, and it kind of shows that the company is really focused on efficiency at the moment. And for the next two topics in this video, I want to take a closer look at Square's ecosystem and Cash App's ecosystem individually and see some of the bullish points within there. Before we go any further, I want to thank you for watching, and I need your help to reach my goal of 30,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you can do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and thumbs up. Also, if you want some fantastic insight into the semiconductor industry, join my other channel, Semiconductor Investing and More, where I use my electrical engineering background to break down the semiconductor market. Finally, I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for their subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode. So here we can see in Square's ecosystem, they mentioned they continue to focus on 3 strategic priorities to drive Square's business: omnichannel, growing upmarket, and expanding globally. So we can see in 2022, 44% of Square's gross profit came from sellers that use 4 or more monetized products. They also realized that in 2022, mid-market sellers who adopted 4 or more products had a 15x greater retention than those who only adopted 1. So the first thing that we're seeing here is this great kind of presentation that retention improves with larger sellers and greater product adoption. So I think this is the great thing that Square is going to try to do, right? As their sellers continue to grow, they're going to try to upsell them into more of their products. And once they have them hooked into more products, that retention continues to grow because the seller goes, hey, I'm already invested this much into this platform. There's no point for me to try to find another platform outside of Square. When they talk about growing upmarket, they do see that mid-market sellers continue to be their fastest growing segment, with gross profit up 16% year over year in the fourth quarter. And for those that are not familiar, a mid-market seller generates more than $500,000 in annualized gross payment volume. And we can see this continues to grow in 2020. In quarter 4 of 2020, mid-market sellers were only 30% of total gross payment volume. Kind of forwarding to 2021, it jumped to 37%, and now fast forwarding to 2022, it jumped up to 39%. And they believe sellers who adopt more of their products can drive meaningful growth for Square and allow us to deepen their relationship with them. And one thing I do enjoy about Square and a lot of companies like this is they improve or they grow or get better revenue, better gross profits if their customers do better, right? So it creates an incentive for them to continue to bring more solutions for their sellers. They do mention, they gave a perfect example, right? There was a Virginia-based garden shop cafe with more than 2.5 million in annualized gross payment volume. And they joined Square 10 years ago with their business being very, very small. But over time, as the company has grown, they have also grown the amount of products that they use for Square. And again, so even a small business is super important for Square because if that company continues to grow, they're going to be able to grab more solutions and make more revenue for Square and that ecosystem. Next is this company is trying to expand globally, and I do believe that is a great move as right now 17% of gross profit is coming from outside the United States. So United States is still a big player here. And they mentioned, right, in Australia, they introduced Square for Retail and Square Appointments on Square terminals. They also introduced other solutions in Ireland and all over the world. So we can see, I do believe a huge potential grower for this company in the Square platform or the Square ecosystem is that international market. They do mention that if you do exclude the buy now, pay later platform, Square's gross profit in markets outside of the United States was only 83 million, representing 12% of Square's gross profit. So even though obviously that buy now, pay later has definitely grown that international exposure for Square and their ecosystem, if you don't include it, it will still be up a nice amount year over year. So we can see Square is still expanding globally, organically, and through acquisitions. Now I want to take a closer look at their Cash App ecosystem. And this is probably the coolest one at the moment. And I do believe this is the one that has the most growth potential. They do mention they are investing in the following development pillars: community, commerce, crypto, financial service, global operating systems, and trust. And I'm only going to take a closer look at a few. I do believe community is very, very important. We are in kind of a very social world right now, at least e-social, right? Where we like to kind of interact with our friends and our families via text message or some form of digital communication at least. So Cash App is really trying to focus to build that community. For example, they launched a peer-to-peer gift cards, allowing customers to send a gift card from a wide range of merchants to their friends and families. So again, you kind of create that community environment in here, which is going to drive more users into the platform. They do mention that during December of 2022, Cash App had 51 million monthly transacting activities, an increase of 16% year over year. And their acquisition cost to acquire a new transacting active is $10 or less. I do believe that is impressive how easy it is for them to kind of grab new transacting active users at the moment. Now, if we take a closer look at financial services, again, all these solutions, they start off with one solution, but as they continue to grow these solutions, this is going to continue to drive more users into their platform. Cash App Card, for example, delivered a strong growth over the past year, generating more than $750 million in gross profit during 2022, a 56% year over year from transactions on the card alone. And we can see Cash App Card gross profit is 26% of total gross profit, and it continues to grow on a yearly basis. In their financial service, they did start in January rolling out savings, which allows customers to hold a separate saving balance and easily set track toward financial goals. So we can see, again, this ecosystem, not only for the sellers in form of their Square platforms, but we can also see for the consumers and the buyers or the savers. Here we can see that Cash App is also continuing to grow the solutions, and this in itself will continue to grab more users, and we can see the improvement of gross profit over time. Next, in the commerce side, they do talk a little bit more about how their buy now, pay later is such a great integration between their seller and their buyer ecosystem, or the Square and Cash App ecosystem. And they mentioned since launch, we have meaningfully grown in the ad and affiliate offering of their buy now, pay later platform. In 2022, the ads and affiliate programs generated nearly $100 million in revenue across nearly 2,000 advertisers. So as we can see, the buy now, pay later service, even though might have been an expensive acquisition, and I do believe many investors agree with that, at least there are some synergies that are happening right now thanks to it. We're also seeing a huge improvements or the amount of solution growth in both their seller ecosystem and in their buyer ecosystem. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.